Upādhishtopi tad-dharmair alipto vyoma-vanmunihi sarva-vinmudhavatishte dasakto vayuvacharet. Upadhishtopi, though associated with upādhis, tad-dharmaihi, by their attributes, aliptaha, untainted, vyomavat, like space, munihi, the contemplative, sarvavit, one who knows everything, mudhavat, like a fool, tishtet, remains, asaktaha, being unattached, vayuvat, like the wind, charet, moves about. Though associated with upādhis, the contemplative sage is undefiled by their traits, like space, and remains unaltered under all conditions, like a dumb person. He moves about unattached, like the wind.
Namaste. So, although associated with upādhis, the contemplative sage is undefiled by their traits. How is that? Well, this brings up the subject of prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is the results of activities from past lives that are going to fructify in this lifetime. So enlightenment destroys all karma except prarabdha karma. Why is that? Well, because that's the law. That's the way it is. And if you think about it, if all karma complete was destroyed, then upon enlightenment, the sage would just drop dead and go off to merge with Brahman. And there wouldn't be anybody to teach. So the design of the universe is such that when someone becomes enlightened, all their karma is vanquished except that for the present lifetime. So the body is going through this prarabdha karma. And so the sage, even though enlightened, even though a jivan mukta, still has to experience this karma, which may come in the form of material happiness or distress or just neutral. So he is undefiled by them. Why? Because he doesn't identify with them. Even though the upādhis may have, well, will certainly have some fallen attributes like desire for this and that, or some kind of nefarious activities, because that's the nature of an upādhi. It covers the real knowledge of Brahman, the self, and instigates all kinds of activities based on vasanas or habitual desires based, again, on past lives and activities, the impressions of past lives. What I did in my past life, I'm going to do again in this life, because in that life it created a vasana, and the vasana is passed forward into the present life. So this is compared to space. Space is never touched by anything. It's never affected by anything. It never becomes the effect of anything, and it doesn't cling to anything. Space is simply space. You cannot tell one patch of space from another. They're identical. Of course, there may be different bodies and objects and forces and energies and so on coming through that space, but that's not the space itself. Similarly, the jivan mukta doesn't identify or doesn't cling to or does not pick up any influence from the upādhis and the karma that's going on in the present body. Like space, if you destroy a cup, what happens to the space in the cup? Well, nothing. because the space in the cup was always part of the space in general. And if you destroy the cup, that doesn't do anything to the space at all. So in the same way, when karma is destroyed, or when upādhis are destroyed or negated by meditation, it doesn't affect the self. That's the whole point. The self is never affected, never becomes the effect of any cause in the material world. Why? Because it's Brahman. And Brahman is never the object, always the subject, always the conscious self, never the objects of consciousness. Always the originator of cause, never the object or effect of cause. So he remains unaltered, like Brahman, because he is Brahman, or he has realized himself as Brahman. Actually, everybody is Brahman, they just don't know it. Or if they know it, they don't realize it. But one who has realized Brahman then becomes unaltered in all circumstances. Even at the time of death, he retains his clear identity, different from the body, different from the karma, the upādhis, the vasanas, all that stuff. Because that's all simply material, conditioned existence. And he is not conditioned. He has passed beyond the conditioned state. So he is not affected. He is not altered. And then he says, it's like a dumb person. And the word is mudha, I think. Yeah. Sarva vinmudhavatishte dasakto. He becomes like an ass, a donkey. Did you ever try to reason with a donkey? They're remarkably unchangeable. They do whatever they're going to do. And if they sit down, you're not going to get them up. So he's comparing the realized soul with the donkey, Buddha, because he's unchangeable. You can't alter his opinion. You can't influence his behavior. He is what he is. He knows what he knows, and he does whatever he wants to do. He moves about unattached like the wind. Like space, the wind is also unattached, doesn't cling to anything, but it goes everywhere. So in the same way, the realized soul, he may travel all over the world. Like right after my first path realization, I said, I'm out of here. And I took a plane. I went to first Hawaii, Oahu, and then I went to Guam. And from Guam, I went all over Micronesia, sometimes flying, sometimes on tramp steamers, which is really cool because you get to camp out on the deck with all the locals. So this was an adventure. I went everywhere. I went wherever I wanted to go, wherever the wind blew, I went. And I was unaffected. After that, nothing could change my point of view. I knew I am Brahman. I am consciousness. I never change. Like a mirror. A mirror never changes. Oh yeah, you can put different objects in front of it and it'll reflect them accurately, but the mirror itself remains the same. Whether you put red color or blue color or, whatever object you put in front of it, it simply reflects. And the same with consciousness. Consciousness simply shows us what is in front of the senses. Now, consciousness of consciousness, that is Turiya, and that is the consciousness of Brahman. Someone made a comment. What's the difference between Buddha's concept of consciousness, which seems always linked with senses and sense objects, and the Vedic concept of consciousness, which is like Brahman, always transcendental, never affected, never attached to anything? or conditioned by anything. And so I said, yes, this is the difference. We only have one word in English, consciousness, but it can mean so many things depending on the context. So when Buddha talks about consciousness, it's in the context of the false identity, the false self, self with a lowercase s. But when the Vedas talk about consciousness, most of the time, they're talking about Brahman consciousness, Turiya. If they mean sense consciousness, they'll say instead, Jagrat, Swapna, or Sushupti, which are the three lower states of consciousness attached to the body. So we are not the body, we're not the mind, we're not the intelligence, and we're certainly not the false ego, the lowercase s, self. We are the self, capital S, the one and only Brahman.
Om Tat Sat, Om Shakti.